And I'm joined on set by Solange Mougin. Hello, Solange. Good to see you. Solange, across Europe, there's been an increasing amount of attention on weapons contracts with Saudi Arabia since the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And in France, the pressure has been mounting for the government to take a stand.
Yeah, the French daily L'Opinion tackles this issue and looks at how the French political system is maneuvering this political minefield, with increasing pressure from MPs towards the Élysée to freeze its arms deals since Germany suspended its own contracts. Now, the front page article notes that the Élysée did not appreciate that Germany didn't consult them before making the move, with many French MPs saying that France should do as well, that they should cancel the contracts. One even said, "We don't sell arms like we sell baguettes." In the cartoon that accompanies the article, you have Macron explaining to the Crown Prince that since the assassination, he can't sell weapons, or the weapons that are in MBS's shopping cart, but he can sell power tools like saws.
Well, France isn't the only nation feeling the heat to suspend its arm deals to the Saudis.
No, the Financial Post takes us through what it calls the rising scruples in many different European nations of the lucrative contracts with the kingdom. At the same time, some countries haven't been been beating around the bush about their interests in weapons contracts. And the Times takes up this debate with a cartoon. They have Theresa May and Donald Trump as bomber beauties, saying we'd kill for a Saudi arms deal, a satirical reminder that money, oil, and weapons are at the heart of all this.
OK, well, turning now to the United States, where a governor's race in Georgia is getting national attention and bringing the issue of voter suppression to the forefront of the midterm debates.
Yeah, this is actually a really fascinating race. It's really neck and neck. It's very close, and it remains so even after Tuesday's debate, according to the New Yorker. The site reminds us that this race isn't only about the governorship, but it's also about voter registration rights. On the one side, you have the Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams, who's been fighting hard for voter rights. If she wins, she would be the first African-American governor in Georgia. And on the other side, you have the Republican candidate Brian Kemp. He's the Secretary of State, so he actually oversees the election that he's running in. Oh. And he's helped put in place in the past extremely strict voter roll rules, which have caused so far some 53,000 voter registration applications to be pushed aside as pending. And some 70% of those are from minorities. So judges struck down this move yesterday, but the New York Times podcast explained a few days ago that this really comes down to who has the right to vote in Georgia. And they say that they show how voter suppression is a very real thing in the U.S., in Georgia, in multiple states. And the fact that Stacey Abrams is fighting against it just shows, according to the Washington Post, how scared Republicans are if every citizen, namely minorities who generally vote Democrat, are allowed to vote.
Fascinating story. I'll have to take a closer look, Solange. We're heading to the art world now, and you have something on the power of art therapy.
Yeah, the Le Monde tells us about an initiative in Montreal that's going into effect. Starting November 1st, doctors will be allowed to prescribe museum visits to their patients that suffer from mental and physical ailments. Now, Frieze magazine says that the initiative between the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts and physicians is the first of its kind, and it will be tested for a year to see what studies have generally shown to be true, that art can help alleviate a range of ailments from depression to diabetes.
I believe that. OK, well, before ending on something sweet and yummy, Solange, you've found something that may not be a big deal to some or may be a little bit yucky to others.
Yeah, Slate has an article today about something that may ring a bell for some commuters who found themselves recoiling in disgust, in revulsion in the metro when a fellow passenger begins cutting their nails.
Oh, that's a big no-no.
Yeah,
that is disgusting.
Well, this is what this is about. A journalist found herself snaring at one such traveler who was manicuring himself, and she saw that people were doing the same thing. Well, other issues like throwing rubbish on the floor, while not polite, doesn't create the same sort of reaction. Well, she went and researched exactly why, with experts explaining that, quote, the world has been pasteurized, that nails are equated as something that is dirty, and cutting them in public puts that out into the open, that the idea that our bodies are growing and living things in a society that Slate argues tries to control and hide that.
Well, it's a hygiene issue, isn't it? It's grooming. You just need
grooming. You don't do it in public.
You keep that to your bathroom. Yeah. Anyway, that's just my opinion. We're moving away from the yuck, and you found something sweet for our viewers.
Yeah, it's actually quite literally sweet, and it's something you could actually debate about at home if you like. The New York Times Magazine has a series of articles today about candy, bonbons. They raise the debate of what is the best candy in the world, and the magazine says the issue is actually quite controversial because our palates differ, and it depends a lot on where you are from. There's an article in that magazine on salty licorice from Finland. If you've ever tried it, I wouldn't recommend it. There's also another on Kit Kats that have become a thing in Japan, and also how candy tasting is taken as seriously as wine tasting in some parts of the world. And they also tell us, and they also tell us what national delicacies to try when traveling abroad.
Okay, well, I'll have to take a closer look at that story as well. I do have a sweet tooth. Solange Mougin with the International Press Review. Thank you very much. Remember,